All right, well, let me introduce myself. My name is Tina McDermott. I call myself the lazy inspirational chef. I'm a speaker and I'm a weight loss coach. I call this Tina's Joyful Kitchen. Joyful because I've got 5 critters with me. If you see one of them behind me there, I can tell you this is my love. This is my passion. And there's no place that I'd rather be than right here, right now in my kitchen, teaching you how you can find joy in the kitchen, even if you don't know how to cook, even if you don't like to cook, so you can live a life that's full of health, that's full of vibrancy and free from dis-ease, free from diets, free from all of those things that you don't want. If you want to be free, put free in that chat box. Put free in that chat box. Let me see it, free in that chat box. All right. And the other thing is, what I learned back to housekeeping, I forgot to ask until I talked about this one, is that when we multitask, we literally experience less joy. And I know you all want joy in your lives. So I'm going to ask you, pick up your phones, put them on silent, close out of all your browsers, and be with me 100%. And I promise you, you are going to experience so much fun and so much joy with me. So if you're in to be with me 100%, type I'm in the chat. Go ahead and type I'm in the chat. If you are in to be with me 100% today, go ahead and type I'm in that chat box. All right. Y'all ready? Let me tell you what we're going to make today. We're going to make a butternut squash casserole. Butternut squash. Let's go, Virginia says. She goes, get on with it. All right. I'm going to make a butternut squash casserole with this pecan crunch topping. And that is instead of the sweet potatoes with the brown sugar and all of that stuff. This is a much healthier version of it. And then what are we going to make? We're going to make green beans wrapped in prosciutto. So it's, again, instead of doing the green bean casserole, let's do something a little different this year. Green beans wrapped in some prosciutto. And then I've got a diabetic friendly cheesecake. Yes, I woke up at 7 a.m. this morning to get the cheesecake ready because it takes some time to prep some things and to get some things going. So, but we're going to make another one if we have time together, but I'll show you what I've done. All right. All right, there we go. We are going to get started. We're going to get started like Virginia said. She goes, let's go. All right. The first thing that I want to get started on is the squash casserole, because I want that to hopefully be done by the time that our class is over. So what I did this morning is, let me see how hot this is. This is hot. I'm going to show you how to cut up a butternut squash if you want me to. Okay. If you want, I will do that for you. But I roasted already the butternut squash and carrots. I roasted them for about 45, 50 minutes. And if you see, this is a stone pan, stoneware. I love stoneware. I always bake on stoneware because it cooks very evenly, Who here loves stoneware? Put stoneware in the chat if you bake or are intrigued about stoneware or want to learn a little bit more about it. Personally, I feel more like a cave woman when I'm closer to the earth, when I cook on stoneware, cast iron skillets, and the such. I love them, love them, love them. But you know what? I love being in this day and age, so I can have a food processor, because that's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm going to put all of these roasted vegetables right into my food processor, Yes, please. Share your tips on yes, I'm going to cut up the butternut squash. I'm going to do that. Let me put these in the food processor. Absolutely. I'm going to cut up a butternut squash for you and get that done. But let's do this first. I did 2 batches because I wanted to make a nice casserole dish for the family, because this I'm actually going to freeze and bring it to our family Thanksgiving. Because yes, you can pre-make a lot of dishes and freeze them, and they're delicious. They're perfect. My mom made a lasagna last time I saw her, and that's in my freezer, and it's easy. You just take it out, thaw it, and then eat it. Much easier. Instead of doing all the cooking all in one day, it's too much. So there's my stoneware. I'm going to put this aside because I'm going to put more. Oh, actually, I'm not going to bake more butternut squash on it just yet. So let me just put that over here for now. Okay. That oven is still hot. Okay. What are we going to do next? Oh, I want to show you I'll finish the filling in just a few moments, but somebody asked, how do we cut up a butternut squash, right? Anybody else want to know how to cut up a butternut squash? Anybody else? Okay. Put butternut squash in that chat if you want to see me cut up a butternut squash. A butternut squash has a very thick skin. Normally when I peel fruits and vegetables, I literally just peel towards me. Butternut squash is one of those, it's really thick skin. And for this particular recipe, the way I like to do it, I like to roast it like you saw in chunks. So the other way that you could do this, instead of peeling the skin, you could just slice it in half, set it inside, flesh side down on a roasting pan, poke some holes on the top, and roast it for, again, I think it's like 400 degrees still at 45 minutes until it's soft, and then scoop out the flesh and then put that flesh into the food processor. You're not going to get that roasted flavor though that you're going to get doing it the way that I showed you. I love this particular vegetable peeler. I literally only take it out when I'm doing butternut squash, as opposed to the one that's held like so. I don't know, there's a better grip on this one. It's bigger. And you're just gonna smash my knuckles every time I do this, but that's okay. That's all right. One year I made a whole big vat of butternut squash curry soup. Has anyone ever had that? I made it for Thanksgiving, and my husband's family, I never made that for Thanksgiving before. And my husband's family is like, what is that? People tasted it, but didn't eat it. I thought it was delicious, but they'd never had butternut squash soup before. And to me, it's fabulous. I could live on it. It's so, so, so good, and so good for you. Okay, here we go. Doesn't have to be pretty. It's okay if you get some pieces on the floor. You can pick them up later. And
Tina,
here we go.
Somebody asked if it's a ceramic blade on the peeler.
Not on this one. That would be smart to get the ceramic blade. It'll last longer, but I've had this one for about 5 years. The ceramic blade will make things a little quicker. I don't think this one has a ceramic blade. Ceramic blades tend to chip though. So be careful of those. Okay, here we go. Now it's time to gather up all of the clippings. Good question. I want as many questions as you have. Send them my way. I want them. Interact. The more interaction that we have, the more fun we're going to have. And remember, this is all about fun and joy in the kitchen. Now I'm putting my vegetable scraps in over here. Who has an idea where I'm putting my vegetable scraps? Any idea what I'm going to do with my vegetable scraps? Any idea? Anybody? They tend to chip. That sounds, yeah, they tend to chip. You got to be careful about the ceramic knives. I've owned several of them, and I ended up chipping them. They could chip in the dishwasher. They could chip in your food. They can chip. I mean, it takes a lot to chip them, but they did chip. So I had to get rid of some of them. Yeah, it's compost. I'm putting it in the compost. Absolutely. And I'm giving it back to Mother Earth, because Mother Earth knows what to do with vegetable scraps. She turns them back to soil. Isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful? All right. Who wants to know a little bit about knife skills? Put knife skills in the chat if you want to learn a little bit about knife skills. If you want to learn a little bit about knife skills, put knife skills in the chat. All right. Most people hold a knife like so, and it can slip out of your fingers. I can tell you that this is probably the most important lesson that I will teach you today, so that you keep your beautiful little fingers, okay? You don't want to do this, because look how easy it is for that knife to slip out. Put this index finger on the side of the blade, the thumb on the other side of the blade, and grip with the other 3 fingers. And now you see it's not going to slip. The other hand, those fingers should be curled at most of the times, unless you need to put pressure up at the top, okay? So you see I'm going to curl my fingers right here, and I'm going to just hit the butternut squash delicately. That went in a little crooked. I'm going to hit it just delicately to get the blade in there. And now I'm going to use my hand on the top and press straight through. That's a hard one. Okay, that was a little hard one. Other things with blades, so you know how to hold it. I use wooden cutting boards now because it keeps the blade sharper. and I hand wash them. I don't want them in the sink clanking up against other things because that will dull the blade. And it just, I like to hand wash them. It's much, much better for the knife in general, okay? If you don't get your knives sharpened, get them sharpened at least once a year, if not twice a year, okay? So let's just chop up this piece here. Once again, I'm just gonna use some muscles here. So round things you wanna make flat. This was round, I made it flat, right? See how my hand is on the top? Okay, let's stack these up, and I'm gonna make them maybe 1-inch chunks. By the way, you could freeze these too and use them another time. And with this dish, you could also purchase frozen, okay? Nothing wrong with buying frozen butternut squash. I typically don't buy it fresh, already cut up, because it's super expensive. And once you cut into a fruit or a vegetable, use it right away or freeze it. Otherwise, it loses the digestive enzymes, the enzymes that are important for our body. Okay, this one wasn't so thick, so I didn't have to lay it on its side. Did somebody have another question for me? I hear something going on in there.
No, you're
Okay.
good.
Okay. So now the other end, you notice I cut the ends off, right? So that's so it makes it flat. And now I'm going to cut this in half as well. I'm going to cut this in half. There we go. And we need to get the seeds out. Use any spoon you want. However, if you have a grapefruit spoon, it's got little ridges on it, and it makes cutting out the seeds so much easier. So much easier. Oh, back to cutting up all that butternut squash for that huge vat of butternut squash soup. I recruited my husband, and I think we peeled and de-seeded probably 5 big butternut squashes. And it's so weird. Your hands get a little slimy from the butternut squash, even if you have to wash them, really, you have to vigorously wash them and scrub them to get that sliminess off after a while. And my husband, who's not used to cooking, and I recruited him, he's like, yeah, it's slimy. Just wash your hands. Life is messy. Wash your hands. I say that all the time. Life is messy. Wash your hands. Clean it up. It's all good. Okay, let's get all these seeds. And we'll put these right into the compost. Now, if you wanted to, you could toast up these seeds. They're wonderful. They're like pumpkin seeds. They're like pumpkin seeds, and they're wonderful. Nice little treat to have while you're watching TV or just hanging out, or need something salty and crunchy to crunch into. Okay, there we go. Again, round things make them flat. That's why I'm not cutting it from this side. I'm cutting it from this side. My hand is a little slimy, so I'm going to wipe it off so that my hand doesn't slip on the knife. Be aware of that. Be aware of that. I'm really cautious about knives. Okay. And if you need some leverage, get those fingers on the top. Get that hand on the top. Fingers closed all the time. Round things make them flat. So we're going to make these flat and go ahead and cut those up. Never scoop up your vegetables with the knife. You dull the knife and you can possibly cut yourself. So don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay. Anybody learning anything new about cutting up butternut squash? Anybody learning anything new? If you are, put new in the chat. And if you're not, that's okay too. It's all good. It's all good. Okay. There we go. Good, 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 good. Very good. So put all of those pieces right into a container. And there we go. And for this recipe, now, mind you, I've already roasted these, so I'm not going to roast them again. I just put them right in a pan and poured olive oil over them. And also I got 1 pound or 2 pounds of carrots. I got 2 pounds of carrots, and look how fun these carrots are. I got them from a farmer's market. And same thing with carrots. They're round, you want to make them flat, but for this particular dish, I'm going to roast big chunks. So, back to the knife skills. Use your whole knife. Don't just chop straight down. Use the whole blade, okay? You want to make them about 1-inch pieces, about the same size as the butternut squash, and then you're going to roast all of that together, okay? Cut off the ends. And again, normally I make round things flat, and I could do it on this one, but because these are big fat carrots, and make them about the same size. These cook a little longer. They take a little longer to cook than the butternut squash. So maybe 1/2-inch pieces on the carrots are better, but it's okay because we're going to cook them twice, right? We roast them in the oven. I roasted them for about 50 minutes, and that's what you saw me put in here, all of that. So there we have it. We got our carrots, we got our butternut squash. Oh, there's one other thing I wanted to say about butternut squash. Has anyone seen these little tiny butternut squashes? They're called a honey nut squash. Holy wow. They are so sweet and so delicious. To cook this, wash it, of course, poke a bunch of holes in it, and then roast it for about 25 minutes at 350, maybe 400. No, 400 is too high for this little baby. I would do 350 and roast it. Take it out, cut it open, take the seeds out, scoop the flesh out, and eat it. It's like candy. So I wanted to show you that. The other thing I wanted to show you, what I was thinking about earlier, is that for this dish, you could peel and chop up a couple apples and roast them in with the butternut squash, and the apples will give us a fresh flavor, a nice fresh flavor. So that's what I was thinking. You mentioned it's easy to freeze butternut squash. Please share the best way to do so. I'm lazy. Okay. So I would literally take those carrots and that butternut squash and put it in a freezer baggie, suck out all the air and put it in the freezer. And when I'm ready to use them, I'll use them. Okay. Some people will parboil them for 2 minutes and then freeze them. Actually, you can't just throw them into a baggie after you parboil them. You'd have to put them on a tray on parchment paper, freeze them in pieces, put parchment paper down, put all the pieces that are parboiled for 2 minutes, and then freeze them for an hour, take them out, and then put them in a baggie. Again, I'm lazy. I don't want to do that step. I've frozen them from fresh right to frozen. And when I'm ready to use them, I take them out. Yeah. They're not going to be as good roasting when they're from the freezer. I don't think they're as good roasting from the freezer. It's kind of like when you cook the butternut squash, when you just chop it in half and then roast it and then take the flesh out. It's just not going to have that caramelized flavor to it. Okay, so I hope that answers your question. I hope that answers your question. I love questions. I love interaction. So by all means, interact with me. Okay, what's next with this? The filling. We have to make the filling. And I did not put any salt in these when I roasted them. You could have. And remember, with salt, you can always add it, but you can't take it away. Can anyone guess what kind of salt I'm using? I have a hint. It's pink. Can anyone guess what kind of salt I'm using? My hint is pink. My hint is pink. Yeah, my hint is pink. It's pink Himalayan salt, sea salt. And people are like, Tina, it's from Himalaya. It's in the mountains. Yes, it was a seabed at one point, and it's mountain salt, but it was from the sea. Okay, and we want sea salt because sea salt is full of minerals that our body is depleted from because our vegetables, the soil is depleted and all of that. All right, next I'm going to put some pumpkin pie spice. If you want this savory, then actually this isn't the right dish for you. You want to do something different. But for this dish, I'm going to put a teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I mix my own pumpkin pie spice, and it's all of those warming spices, the cloves, the cinnamon, the ginger, the nutmeg, the allspice. It's wonderful. I mix it myself. I find it fresher when I mix it myself. I'm going to put in about a 1/4 cup of maple syrup, not a ton. I don't want it to be super sweet. I just want it to be slightly sweet. For those of you, you don't have to tell me, but for those of you who are diabetic and you don't want even a little bit of sweetener in here, what you could do is use maple extract. I'm using a 1/4 cup, which is 4 tablespoons, by the way. My 1/4 cup measures are occupied at this time. So there we go. We've got the maple syrup in there. If you are use maple syrup, maple extract, use a little maple extract in here, and you'll still get the mapley flavor. And if you want it to be a little sweeter, what you could do is use Swerve has this brown sugar that is made from fermented vegetables, erythritol, made from erythritol. I bake with this often. No one can tell the difference that this is not real cane brown sugar. And because it's from fermented vegetables, it's not from a laboratory experiment. It's from vegetables, okay? Some people can't handle the vegetable. I mean, the erythritol can give them gastrointestinal upset, and some people, most people can handle it, and some people can't. So you could use something like this, or even monk fruit. A lot of people use stevia. I do not like to use stevia in baking. I don't use stevia anymore. I switched over completely to monk fruit. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to use about a half a cup of some coconut milk from the can. This is a can that I opened up a couple of days ago. I didn't use the whole thing. I always smell it. Just I love the smell of coconut. Also, I want to make sure that it didn't spoil in 3 days. How could it spoil in 3 days? But you never know. I was listening to the radio this morning, and he was talking about how pasta sauce can grow mold within 3 days. If you open up the jar of pasta sauce and you don't eat it, like, yeah, no more storing pasta sauce. Eat it or throw it away. So that's about a half a cup of some coconut milk. Why am I using coconut milk? People are like, oh, it's high in saturated fats. Coconut milk, coconut in general, is antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial. It is so good for your body. It is so good for you. So absolutely have at least a tablespoon a day of something that has coconut in it. Okay, let me make sure I have everything in here. And if I don't, oh well. So food processor, I'm just going to blend away and I'll be right back. So with the food processor, sometimes you need to help it along a little bit. So just take the lid off. Just see how it's doing. It's looking good. It's looking good. And sometimes you just need to pulse it to get it to work a little bit more. So we're going to pulse it. You could do this in a blender if you want. I think it's easier to do it in a food processor. Quarter cup. Quarter cup. Almost done. Almost. You know what I want to do? I don't think that that was quite a half a cup of coconut milk. I think it needs a little bit more fluid. So I'm going to put a little bit more coconut milk in there. I hardly ever measure. It's really difficult for me to measure. That's why I call myself lazy and inspirational. I want you to use your own flavors. If you wanted to use heavy cream here, there's nothing wrong with using some heavy cream in this recipe, but some people want to be dairy free. And I try to add coconut to as many things as possible because it's so good for you. In the cans, the cream sits up at the top and the fluid is at the bottom, the liquid's at the bottom. So I'm just going to add a little bit more of that. And here we go. Don't store the rest of that coconut milk in your can though, like I had it in another jar. Do that, put it in another jar. Okay, let's blend this up. It's almost there. And what I'm going to do while that's still going to blend, and I want to show you what I'm doing. I have a bag of chopped pecans, but I think that they need to be chopped a little bit more. Let me show you my lazy way. You'll see it. Hold on. Just a little more. That's almost done. That's almost done. But I wanted to show you what I'm doing here. I have sunflower seeds. That's the first thing I put in, about a quarter cup of some sunflower seeds. Then I had about a cup, 3/4 of a cup of the chopped pecans. Did you like the way I chopped my pecans? And then I'm going to do almost a cup of some coconut chips. Okay, you can do shredded coconut. I like the larger pieces of coconut on the top of this particular dish. Okay, so that's coconut chips. And again, coconut is wonderful for you. And I get that unsweetened. Coconut is sweet unto itself. You do not have to buy sweetened coconut. It's an oxymoron. You're already going to get the sugar from the coconut. You don't need any more sugar. And remember, we want to be diabetic friendly. We want to be sugar friendly. We don't want to be eating too much sugar, because the more sugar that we eat, the more that our glucose levels rise. And when our glucose levels rise, our body produces insulin. Our pancreas produces insulin. And when your body produces insulin, it takes that glucose and it takes it right to fat storage. Okay. Not only that, but it causes plaquing of the arteries and disrupts the liver, and a whole bunch of other things go on. I know I'm telling you a huge story and just a few sentences. This is just about done. I'll show it to you. Maybe I could cream it a little bit more, but it's fine. I love little bursts of carrot here and there. Okay. So there we have it. And I'm going to put this is how simple this is. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I should know better. 400 degrees, and forgot to turn the oven on, but it was already hot from before. So there we go. Okay. Okay, here we go. So the butternut squashes and carrots, they're already cooked, and it doesn't need too much more cooking. All right, let's take care of that. Careful with this blade, okay? Careful this blade, it can cut you. Careful where you store it and everything. Oops. I said careful, and the next thing I do is I drop it. Jeez Louise. Okay, here we go. Put that right in the oven. I mean, in the sink. Okay. Does this look good to you guys? Does this look good so far? Does this look like something that you might want to make? Does this look? Oh yeah, you can substitute walnuts. Absolutely. You can do whatever nuts that you want. You can even do almonds. I would do slivered almonds though, if you're going to do almonds. I think walnuts and pecans work best on this dish though, versus almonds or even cashews. Yeah, I wouldn't use those. Yeah, pecans or walnuts I would use. You see, I could have put this in the food processor a little bit more to get a little more creamy, but look at those little bursts of carrots in there. Oh, my husband adores carrots. I think he adores carrots. Anytime I make any kind of stew, he wants to eat all of the carrots first. I'm like, can you save me some? So remember, this is already cooked. We're just going to put our pecan topping on the top, and then we're going to cook it again for maybe 10, 15 minutes, just to cook it through and to get it warmed up before your event. Or if you're going to freeze this, don't put it back in the oven right now. Don't put it back in the oven. Put the topping on it like I'm going to do, and then put saran wrap on top, double layer of saran wrap, make sure it sticks beautifully. I even put tin foil on top of the saran wrap, and then freeze it, okay? Freeze it. Make sure this is cool, that this is not hot, because if you took the vegetables right out of the oven, this would be hot. Do not put something hot into the freezer, also because it brings the temperature up for everything else. Also, when you're ready to cook it, say the day of that you're having people over, and when you're ready to cook it, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to also put a little bit of salt in this topping, just a little bit. Thinks it needed a little salt, even though it wasn't in my recipe. When you're ready to bake it, I want you to take it out at least, I would take it out the night before. The bottom line is you don't want to put something that's frozen into the oven. It will break your stone if you're using stoneware. If you're using something like metal, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal, but you still want to defrost it before you put it in the oven. So I would defrost it at least 6 hours before you put it in the oven, if not more, if you're using stoneware. Does anybody else use stoneware? Anybody else here use stoneware? Anybody else use stoneware? Put stone in the chat. Yeah, you can thaw it in the fridge. You can thaw it in the fridge, but this doesn't have any kind of meat in it. It doesn't have any animal protein. And my rule of thumb is if it doesn't have animal protein, you can thaw it out on the counter. If it has animal protein, then you thaw it out in the refrigerator. Yeah. Stone, some, yeah. I've been married like 18 years, and 18 years ago, my stoneware products were on my wedding registry. Yes, I still have them. And yes, I still use them. And yes, I still love them. You know, another thing you could do for this topping, I could have put some more cinnamon into this topping if I wanted to. But you know, the world is your oyster. What are you inspired to put? What else would you put on this dish before you put it in the oven or put it in the freezer? What else would you put in this dish before you put it in the oven or in the freezer? What would you do? What else would you do? I'm going to put it in now. Oven's at 300 versus 4, but that's okay. I'm going to put it in now, and we're going to do a 10-minute timer, please, Caitlin. Okay, let's get to our topping for the cheesecake. I'm going to start the topping because it needs to cook for a little bit, and then we'll do our green beans, okay? Caitlin, I did tell you timer, right? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, okay, good. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to make, like, remember I said it's diabetic friendly. We don't want a lot of sugar in our cheesecake. So the topping are going to be cranberries. How beautiful are cranberries? They are so good for you. I cannot express enough how good for you they are. We all know that if you, sorry to say it, but if you have a UTI, you need to be drinking cranberry juice. But the oxymoron about that is that it has sugar in it, and sugar is going to feed the bacteria. So if you're going to eat cranberries the way I'm going to show you, okay? Or get the cranberry concentrate and water it down and sweeten the water with maybe a little bit of monk fruit or something else, okay? You don't want to be doing that. Anyhow, let's not talk about UTIs. So I washed all my cranberries. Make sure you sort through them and eliminate the ones that are not good, okay? Fresh cranberries, you could use frozen here in this recipe, right frozen right in there, not a problem. I'm going to do, where's my little lemon squeezy thing? It's right under my nose. Here it is. I'm going to put some lemon in there because lemon is just an amazing flavor that pops. And it just gives that fresh flavor that you like, that I love. So my recipe called for a half a cup of water. And instead of water, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do orange juice. It also calls for orange zest. I decided I want some lemon zest in there as well. So we're going to put some lemon zest. There we go. Caitlin, can you make sure that everyone is on mute?
Yeah,
Please.
everybody's on mute right now.
Okay, thank you, dear. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, next we're going to do some orange zest. Isn't this orange an interesting looking orange? This is a juicing orange, specifically for juicing. I went to 3 stores the other day, you know, to do all my food shopping for my cooking classes, and only 1 store had oranges, and they only had juicing oranges. And I said, well, you know what? Good news. I only need juicing oranges because that's what I'm going to use this orange for. We're going to juice. So instead of the water, we're going to use that lemon juice, a lot of lemon juice, and the juice of an orange. It does call for orange extract. We are going to use orange extract just to give it a little wow of flavor of orange. And if you don't want orange, use more lemon or use lemon extract. Okay, so we've got, what do we have in here so far? Cranberries, lemon juice, lemon zest, orange zest. And we are going to add a little sweetener. I'm going to add some monk fruit. Has anyone ever heard of monk fruit? Put monk fruit in the chat if you've heard of monk fruit. If you've heard of monk fruit, put monk fruit in the chat. Monk fruit, there was this big stevia craze, and stevia has got kind of a bitter aftertaste to it, a little bitter taste to it. And monk fruit is from a fruit that when you eat it, it's sweet, but it does not elevate your blood sugar levels. Yay! How wonderful is that? How wonderful is that? So they make this granulated. You can get powdered. You can get confectioner sugar. When I bake, I normally use confectioner sugar. Like that's what I used in the cheesecake. But for this one, because I'm boiling it, I can use the granular monk fruit sweetener. How much is that? That is 1/8 of a cup, and I'm supposed to use 1/2 a cup. So I need 4 of these. 1, 2, here's 3, and here is 4. My husband, I was making yesterday what was I making?
And Tina, where do you get monk fruit?
Good question. I was making a turkey and stuffing meatloaf. Oh my gosh, I don't believe I couldn't find my words. Turkey and stuffing meatloaf I was making yesterday, and the topping is cranberry sauce. My husband, I don't like cranberries. He ate it and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. All right, I'll talk to you about monk fruit and where to get it in just a second. All right, Caitlin, please remind me 5 minutes to stir that up, okay? I get this from My Organic Market, also known as Mom's. You can get it from Whole Foods. You can get it online. Lots of different places that you can get monk fruit. I'll show you the brand that I love in just a few moments. Here it is. I'll just show it to you now. La Canto. La Canto is the brand that I use. No one knows that I am using not cane sugar, okay? And it's not going to elevate your blood sugar levels. Yay. And it's not going to have that cascade effect that I was talking about. So as we're working on this topping. By the way, I've already made the cheesecake. I got up at 7 a.m. to make the cheesecake for y'all. Let's make our string bean bundles, okay? Let's make some string bean bundles, and then we'll talk more about the cheesecake, okay? String bean bundles, what I did is I got some French beans. You can get whatever beans you want. Again, this is just a little different from the regular green bean casserole that's got full of canned mushroom soup that, it's just, you don't know what kind of oils are in there, what kind of spices that they used, if there's MSG in there, because MSG could be hidden under so many different names. You want to be careful in your life with what you're eating, how you're eating. And so now we're going to make, hold on a second. Like some funny noises coming from over here. So checking on this real quick. Let's lower the heat and I'll stir that up in a few moments. So we're going to wrap these green beans in some prosciutto. Who here knows about prosciutto? Okay, who here knows about prosciutto? I grew up on this. I'm Italian. And we used to, my parents were born and raised in Italy. So we've been going back our whole lives. Yeah, love it, love it, love it. Please spell that. You want me to spell prosciutto? It's Prosciutto. Caitlin, put that in the chat. Prosciutto. Prosciutto is a cured, it's cured pork. They get my grandfather, my uncles, my aunts in Italy, they all make their own prosciutto. They all make their own prosciutto, and it's salt cured. Did you know that it takes an entire year? A year to salt cure a prosciutto leg, a whole year. Wow. Yeah, long time. And it's so nice here. We buy prosciutto and it's all separated by these little pieces. In Italy, my aunts and uncles literally have the big prosciutto leg sitting up on a stand, and you get the knife and you cut nice big thick cut pieces off of it. It's wonderful. That's wonderful.
Tina, she actually wanted you to spell the monk fruit brand that you were talking about.
That's funny. That's funny. La Canto, Lakanto, La Canto, La Canto. Okay. Can you see what I'm doing here? I've got my prosciutto laid out, and then we're going to put some green beans on the top, about 10 of them, maybe 6. I don't know. Depends on how fat your green beans are and how long your prosciutto pieces are. Okay. And isn't that funny? I misunderstood. That was something that didn't belong there. Pardon me. Okay. Let me wrap these up. Look how quick they are. Just wrap them up. These are going to be so pretty. Everyone at the table are going to be, wow, those are different. Where's the green bean casserole? No. Those are different. Where's the green bean casserole? Oh, they're going to love these. They're going to love these because when I'm going to put some freshly ground black pepper on here, we're going to roast these in the oven for maybe, I would say about 12 minutes, 10, 12 minutes, something like that. And then when they come out, you're going to put some glazed balsamic vinegar on top. Glazed balsamic vinegar. It's just a little thicker. Oh, it's yummy, yummy, yum. Okay.
And
Maybe
Tina,
one more
your
piece.
9-minute alarm and your 5-minute alarm went off, FYI.
All right. Remind me what the 9-minute alarm was for.
That's for the oven, the casserole.
Ah, the casserole. Okay. Well, it's going to have to wait because I have to wash my hands and I have to finish this. So just remind me in a few moments, okay? I want to finish this because remember, if you're going to touch meat, don't touch anything else. Don't touch anything else. I mean, string beans, of course, because they're going into the prosciutto, but don't touch anything else, okay? Wash your hands before you do anything else. When I watch cooking shows, sometimes I watch cooking shows and I'm like, he didn't wash his hands. Oh my gosh, he didn't wash his hands and he touched meat. Don't do that. Yeah, you don't want to spread salmonella. You don't want to spread E. coli. You don't want to spread any of those things. So just be super careful. Just be super careful. Here we go. I was doing a show talking about that once, and the HR woman came on. She goes, thank you so much. I've been telling people that all along and nobody listens to me. Wash your hands. I went to a barbecue and the girl that was barbecuing the burgers was touching the burgers and touching the grill, the handle, the spatula without washing her hands. It flipped me out. I didn't leave. I just didn't eat burgers. Okay, so that is trash. I'm going to wash my hands. I'll be right back. Yeah, always wash your hands when you touch meat. Okay, let's check on these things. All right. Oh, I just got cranberries all over my stovetop. That's okay. It smells very orangey. You know when they're done, when they pop, and they're not popped yet. This is done. You know it's done because you get a little crispy at the top, okay? Now, if you already had your vegetables warm and you put them in, 10 minutes should be enough at the 400. If it's from very cold, I would put it in 350 for maybe about 20 minutes, and the last 5 minutes, maybe turn it up if you want it a little more crispy up at the top. So there we have it, our butternut squash carrot casserole with pecan crunch topping. I'm gonna go put it down because it's a little hot. All right. What do we have in there? Somebody put a link to something. What is that link to? Lakanto?
Yeah, I put the link in there.
Oh, you did. Thank you. Very good. Very, very, very good. Okay, let's finish these up and then we have to get to the cheesecake. Always don't use salt on this. Prosciutto is salty enough because it's been salt cured for a whole year. Do not add salt. No salt needed. No fat needed. You don't even need olive oil on this because there's the fat you see from the prosciutto that's going to go into the string beans. So don't put fat on that. I think this one's 375, this recipe. So I'm going to lower the temperature. And this one's only 10 minutes. So here we go. Caitlin, did I tell you another 5 minutes for my cranberries?
No, but I'll add it.
Okay. And 10 minutes for the string bean. Yeah, 10 minutes for the string beans, please. I know. You're more than just an assistant, girlfriend. You're do my timer stuff too. I love it. I love it, love it, love it. Okay. Again, when they come out, I'm going to put some balsamic glaze on them. They're going to be amazing. Cannot wait to have lunch today. It's going to be wonderful. What do we have to do next? We have to make a cheesecake, right? Oh gosh, do we even have time to make a cheesecake? Well, I'm going to tell you a little bit of tips of what I did. You see how I have my wooden spoon? This is my little toaster oven, okay? My little toaster oven. And when I'm making smaller things, I use my toaster oven. It's a convection toaster oven. So when I cooked my cheesecake, I put something on top of it so that it doesn't burn on the top. If you cook with convection, 25 degrees lower and about 10% less time, about 10% less time. I baked my cheesecake for about 45 minutes in the convection, and the center was just a little jiggly. It's not jiggly anymore. And then I let it sit in the oven for another hour with the spoon in there to just keep it a little ajar. You didn't want it to cook. You just didn't want to move it. In the moving is when you end up with cracks in the such, and you can see I have no cracks. What I should have done, because you see it got a little more cooked over here, is I should have had a bigger piece of parchment paper, because the convection has a fan and this kept moving. Okay, but it's okay. It's still going to be absolutely delicious. Let me tell you, I've made this recipe several times and brought it to parties, and no one knows that I use monk fruit in here. They were all floored by how absolutely amazingly delicious this is. Okay. Now, this is almost done. I know that the cranberries are almost done because the cranberries are starting to pop a little bit. Now, with this cheesecake, you're going to ask me all of the ingredients in it, and I will go through that with you. I'm going to let this sit for just a few more moments. You really, before you take it out of this springform pan, you want it to sit. Yeah, I'm not going to take it out now. I'm not. It's going to fall apart on me. You want it to sit. I'm going to sit this on the counter for an hour and then put it in the refrigerator for several hours. At that point, I can open up my springform pan and then plate it. Okay, I'm not going to do it now. It will fall apart. It will fall apart. Okay, and I'll show you the topping in just a moment. But now you're going to ask, well, how did you make it? I'll show you. Where is that other springform pan? If you were a springform pan, where would you be? Right on my countertop. Okay, first of all, before I go on, thank you. I'm glad you think it looks wonderful. Are you all having fun? Are you having fun? Is this a fun class for you? Put fun in the chat if you're enjoying this and you're having a good time. If you're having fun enjoying this, put fun in the chat. Yes, good, 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 good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I'm going to show this to you. I didn't have room on my counter to do it on the counter today. So you see how this is thickening up? Look at that. Not only that, but you can see the cranberries have broken apart a little bit. Some of them have popped, but not all of them, which is why I want to cook it for just a little bit more. I want to wait for the rest of them to, see, it's thickening. Oh, this is just going to be so delicious. So we're just going to cook it for another few moments. Okay, maybe another 2, 3, 4 minutes. We'll see. And I made a half batch, okay? Because what I found is when I made the whole cake, when I made the entire cheesecake, and it was just, even for a family party, we had 20 people and they all had a little bit of cheesecake. I still had a half a cheesecake left. There's a lot to it. So I found that making the big one is just too much. It's just too much. Also, I call this diabetic friendly because I don't use sugar in it. I didn't use any sugar whatsoever. The crust, I'm just going to walk you through what I did with the crust. Oh, heck, do I have time to make crust? Let's see if I have time to make crust or not. Yeah, I do. I can make a crust for you. The crust is simple. Again, I halved the recipe. I use 1 cup of almond flour. I always use almond flour. because sometimes I use coconut flour, but not for this, not for my cheesecake recipe. Okay. And by the way, you can freeze the cheesecake too. I have frozen it right in the spring form pan, but you don't have to do that. I would definitely refrigerate it, take it out, put it in another container, and then freeze it. Okay. So it's a cup of almond flour. It's gluten-free. You want to be gluten-free for so many reasons, for digestive health, for, I can go on and on and on and on, how important it is for you to be gluten-free. For brain health, I had Lyme disease and my brain was affected. And anytime that I'm tired, my immune system's compromised in any way, I have a very hard time remembering things. Okay. And okay, so for the crust is almond flour, unsalted butter, a pinch of sea salt, and a quarter cup. Where's my sea salt? Pinch of sea salt and a quarter cup of monk fruit. Here is the confectioner's sugar of monk fruit. When I'm making the crust, even for, actually, you could use the confectioner's sugar of the monk fruit. You could also use that swerve sugar replacement. It's brown sugar. I used this in the last crust, in this particular crust, but in the past, I have used this one. Okay, you can use either. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, whichever one you want. You know what? Let me use the rest of this. And it's only a quarter cup. So there's, look, it looks just like brown sugar, but this is the erythritol that I was talking about, the erythritol.
And do you need to check your cranberries, or did you turn them off?
Possibly.
And do you know who has the recipes by chance?
Heather. Heather should have the recipes. If she doesn't have the recipes, no, you were not given the recipes ahead of time? I'm sorry that you don't have the recipes. Always makes me sad when people don't have the recipes. Put your email in here and I'll make sure you have the recipes, okay? Does anybody here have the recipes? Anybody here have the recipes? Anybody? Anybody?
Hey,
Yeah.
Tina, it's Tammy. I do, so I can send that over to the.
Oh, good. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you. Thank you. So you'll send it to everybody who's here today. I'll send you the registration report and the video too, the recording. So look how this thickened up. Look at that. It is ready. It is ready for some cheesecake. Thank you, Tammy. I appreciate it. Now, what I'm going to do for this crust, I'm just going to get my hands in there. I'm just going to get my hands in there. And I have soft butter. It was sitting out for a little while. Also, when you're going to make cheesecake, take the cream cheese out ahead of time. Take the cream cheese out ahead of time, an hour, 2 hours. I left mine overnight. Even the eggs, I just left them out overnight. If you're weary about that, then an hour prior to cooking. So you see how I make that crust? Super easy. Use your fingers. It's so much easier when you use your fingers. I try to use the utensil and it's just a pain. It's just a pain. And with the fingers, I can break up the brown sugar, the erythritol. Remember what I told you about erythritol? It's a sugar alcohol made from vegetables that does not raise your blood sugar. And you don't want, I know I'm all about the blood sugar, right? Because that's what keeps you healthy. And you're just going to get your fingers and smash it on the bottom of your cheesecake pan. Then you're going to bake this. I'm trying to remember how, I think I baked it for 20 minutes. And it's in the recipe. I don't quite remember. So you bake it first, let it cool, and then you're going to put the topping in. And the topping is simply cream cheese. You mix it with the confectioner sugar. Don't use the brown sugar for the cheesecake. Use the confectioner sugar. Mix that all up, whip it up, throw an egg in there, whip it in, put the other egg in there, whip it in, then the vanilla, then the sour cream. Add those things in. Pinch of salt as well. Then you're going to pour it in once this is cooled. Remember, cook the crust first. This cooks a little differently. And then cook it in the oven for 50 minutes. Do not remove it from the oven. You know that you might think, oh, it needs to cook for more because the center is jiggly. It's supposed to be jiggly in the center. Set it, leave it in the oven for an hour and then remove it. And this is what it's going to look like. Then you're going to set this in the refrigerator for a few hours, and then you're going to break open your spring form pan. Okay. All right. So let's see. We only have a few minutes left. Caitlin has a free gift for you, and that is my Joyful Gut Reboot Guide. Talks all about how you can have a joyful belly, and gives you all the little, the simple things that you can do. Okay, simple things that you can do, and you can feel free to join my Facebook tribe. Caitlin is also going to put in the chat the link to my cooking show, my YouTube cooking show. So join me on my cooking show. Please, please, please subscribe to that. And also, I'd love to find out, I'm going to show you all of our finished products, and we'll see if that finished up in the oven. There's the crust there. But I'd love to know what have you found most valuable about our time together today? Go ahead and put it in the chat. What have you found most valuable about our time together today? Most fun, it could be what you found most fun about our time together today too. Yeah, I'd love to know. I'd love to know. What did you find most valuable about our time together today? And again, if you have any other questions, please pose those as well. Thank you, Caitlin, that was awesome. Thank you. You're so welcome, Rhoda. So welcome. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be here. Just not enough time to make the whole cheesecake. So, and you know what? What are you inspired to make? What are you inspired to make? Let's go and get our finished dishes over here. And I still have to get the string beans out of the oven, which I'll do that right now. I'll get the string beans out in just a heartbeat here. And here's our casserole, our butternut squash casserole, our cheesecake with our topping. I can't plate it for you because it will fall apart. But it's, I promise you, delicious. And why not decorate it with a little bit of rosemary? So pretty. Mother Nature is amazing. In Italy, they have bushes of rosemary. Love my rosemary. Let's check those string beans before you all go. All the healthy ingredients. Good. All right. Here are our string beans, fresh out of the oven. I'm going to let them cook for just a few more minutes because I want that prosciutto to be crispy on the top, just a little crispier. And then I'll serve it with a little bit of that balsamic glaze. And there we have it, all of our dishes for today. I want to say thank you from the top to the bottom to the middle to my entire heart. Thank you so much for being here, for participating with me, for all of your interaction. It has been so much fun. And, and I love the fact that you have learned, you agreed with Rhoda, you really enjoyed seeing the healthy ingredients that still look good and sound yummy. They are. They're delicious. Nobody knows. Now that my husband's home and he hears me, he's going to know that I use monk fruit. You're inspired to make it all good. I'm so glad. All right, people. Thank you again so much. And until next time, namaste. Bye for now, everyone. Have an amazing day. Bye for now.